Hey everyone, welcome back to Firsthand Globetrotting. In my past few videos, I've been showing you around the Barcelo Maya Grand Resort in the Riviera Maya, Mexico. If you've been following along, you know that it's a massive place with so much going on. So far, I've needed to do 6 different videos just to show you everything you can see and do and experience at the resort. In part 1, I showed you the 6 hotels they have, walked around the buildings, and took you on a tour of my room. In part 2, I talked about the incredible blue water and sandy beaches and showed you around the huge pools the resort has. In part 3, I talked about all of the food options at the restaurants, buffets, and beach grills. Part 4 was all about the entertainment and nightlife, and I showed you the bars, live shows, and late night fun. In part 5, I showed you some of the places on the resort that you'll want to check out, like a shopping mall and a Mexican market. And part 6 was about the incredible water activities the resort has, and some of the extra cost adventure entertainment that you can do while you're there. Links to all of those videos are in the video description. See what I mean? There was a lot of stuff to cover. It's basically its own little oceanfront city with a long private beach hidden away from the rest of Mexico. You could spend your entire vacation at the resort without ever stepping foot outside the front gate and have an absolutely amazing time. But if you're like me and want to get out and explore the Yucatan Peninsula, you're going to have a lot of options for that too. In this video, I'm going to show you some of the great off-resort activities and day trips you can do so you can see some more of Mexico. I'm going to start nearby with one of the only things within walking distance of the resort. If you go to the resort entrance that you came in through when you got here, where the big Barcelo sign is, you end up along the main highway. It's a few lanes wide and can be really busy, but if you don't mind waiting for a break and running across it, there are some great places on the other side. You may have heard of places called cenotes, and they have a few of them there. They're natural pools found all over the Yucatan Peninsula, and you should really try to get to at least one while you're here. And some are less than a 5-minute walk from the front gate. The one I went to was called Cristolino Cenote. It's hard to miss with the big sign by the highway. Just follow the little path in from the road. Eventually you'll come to the building where you pay to get in. When I went, it was cash only. Your admission includes a life jacket you can use for swimming in the cenote in case you want one. You take a staircase path down and it's like you're walking into the Mexican jungle. Once you get your first look at the crystal clear water, the rock walls surrounding it, and the vegetation all over the place, you'll get why cenotes are so popular. It's like you found a secret lake hidden in the middle of a forest. It's hard to believe this is so close to the highway and only a few minutes walk from the ocean. As you walk around, there are a few different pools formed into the rocks, and all of them have perfectly clear water. When you look down into it, you see a lot of little fish swimming around the surface and near the sides. It looks picture perfect, but one of the best parts is hopping into the water to swim around. As soon as you put your head underwater, you can see all the way down to the rocky bottom and all of the fish swimming around you. Some spots have rocks overhanging the water, so you can swim through little cave tunnels from one pool to another. I thought this was such a cool feature of the cenote. The main pools are so bright and sunny, with light sparkling off the water surface. But the cave area feels so much more hidden away, with the stone walls and vegetation and water surrounding you on nearly every side. And there are little beams of light that come in through the cracks and light up the bottom of the pools. Everything here seemed so natural, from the trees growing out of the pools, to the fish swimming in the water, to the bottom of the pools with big chunks of rock. Even though you have the pools and beach at the resort, this was a completely different experience. And there's even a platform up above where you can jump off into the water. As I said at the start, there are a few different cenotes across the road from the resort, and even though I went with Cristalino, the other ones looked pretty great too. No matter which one you choose, I recommend going as early as you can. We got there almost as soon as it opened, and pretty much had the entire place to ourselves. The resort has the Plaza Mexicana to give you a little of the Mexican market experience, but if you want to get out and see an actual Mexican city, Playa del Carmen is your closest option. It's about 30 minutes away from the resort along the main highway, so you may remember passing by it on your way from the airport. The easiest way to get there is to go by taxi. The front desk can call you one to pick you up right at the hotel lobby, and there are usually a few parked by the main gate, so you won't need to wait very long for a ride. If you're a little more adventurous, there are shared vans called collectivos that run up and down the highway from Tulum to Playa del Carmen and are a pretty cheap option to get around. You just flag them down on the road and they pull over, and the driver will drop you off anywhere along the route. It was actually a lot easier than I expected. One of the most popular things to do in Playa del Carmen is take a walk down 5th Avenue. It's the main pedestrian road that runs parallel to the beach, around a block away from the water. But I'll warn you, it's super touristy here. All along the road they have clothing stores and restaurants and tequila shops and souvenir stands and bars and other things. You'll even see some really modern shopping centers with major international brands. The best way I can describe walking down 5th Avenue is like making your way through a sea of salespeople. They know that pretty much everyone there is a tourist on vacation, and they're going to do their best to try to get you to buy something. Some of them will start a conversation about your clothing, some will offer you free samples or special discounts, and others will try to make you laugh so you come by their store. Oh, and a few will notice your Barcelo Resort bracelet and pretend they work at the resort and that they recognize you from there. They don't actually work there, it's just one of the dozens and dozens of sales tricks you're going to see people using to try to get your business in Playa. I can't really blame them since they're just trying to earn a paycheck, but if you spend an hour walking down 5th Avenue, you're probably going to be approached 100 times. And a lot of them are going to offer to sell you illegal things, so be prepared in case those type of offers make you feel uncomfortable or weird. But no matter what they sell, just say no thanks and they'll move on to the next tourist. If you're looking for typical souvenirs, they have dozens of huge stores full of that kind of stuff, and nearly every store has an almost identical selection of things for sale. You're going to notice that everything along 5th Avenue is more expensive since only tourists shop here. Even the big-name international clothing stores seem like they were more expensive than the prices I normally see in Europe or the USA, so you're not going to find many deals. The same thing goes for most of the restaurants. The food and drink prices are going to be really high by Mexican standards, and the quality may not be great. Just like tourist restaurants anywhere in the world. If you're willing to walk a block or two away from 5th Avenue, the food gets cheaper, better quality, and more authentic. But there are so many different little spots to choose from, it can be hard to pick where to eat. What I ended up doing was taking a food walking tour with a company called Eating with Carmen. This isn't an advertisement or anything, I paid full price for the tour, they're just the company I decided to book with based on the reviews. But I had an incredible experience with them, so if you're interested, there's a link in the video description. I think I got to try 8 or 9 different foods, and there's no way I would have found any of these spots on my own. Most of them were tiny little hole-in-the-wall restaurants and stalls, not really near where a tourist would normally walk. I don't think any of them had English menus, and most don't even show up on Google Maps, so I never would have found them by myself. But the food was so much cheaper and so much better than anything I found on 5th Avenue. I ended up coming back to a few of them on my own another day. Make sure to check out Parque Los Fundadores. It's a park sandwiched between 5th Avenue and the beach and is one of the city's biggest attractions. If you want a picture with the Playa del Carmen sign, this is where you'll find it. It's such a great place for a park, giving you an amazing view out over the ocean wherever you stand. And it has Playa del Carmen's most famous monument. The Portal Maya is a beautiful carved arch by the beach that you'll definitely want to check out. You may notice that the park has a big pole with some ropes hanging down from the top. If you're lucky, when you're there you may see a few guys climbing up it and taking a seat at the top. make sure to sit down and watch what they're up to since you're about to see something really cool. It's called the Dance of the Flyers, an ancient Mexican ceremony that mixes culture with acrobatics. There are 5 guys up there. 4 of them tie ropes around themselves, and the 5th is a musician. They get the central perch spinning around, and then the guys attached to the ropes lean back over the edge and dangle themselves from the pole. They spin and spin and spin, with the rope slowly unraveling and lowering them closer to the ground with every turn. The performers do the Dance of the Flyers a few times throughout the day, and it's such a cool thing to get to see live. It gives you pretty much everything you could want. You get to see them perform an ancient Mexican cultural ceremony mixed with some death-defying acrobatics, all while you're sitting in an oceanfront park with the sound of waves behind you. Eventually their ropes get fully unraveled and they're able to pop back up onto their feet and stop the spinning. I don't know how they managed to hang upside down and spin above the ground for so long, but it was great to watch. Pretty much every street that connects with 5th Avenue leads to the beach. The beaches here are all public, so if you spent enough time walking around Playa del Carmen and shopping, you can walk towards the water and take one of the little pathways that leads out to the sand. The first thing you'll notice is that the beach is completely different from what you're used to seeing at the Barcelo Maya. It's so much busier and more chaotic. The entire beach area is really tightly packed with small hotels and restaurant patios and beach bars and massage spots everywhere you look. So it's hard to find a spot to sit in the sand unless you're willing to rent a beach chair, and there are lots of vendors trying to sell you things. Personally, it really made me appreciate how nice and relaxing and quiet and hassle-free the private beach experience at the Barcelo Maya is. If you're looking to take a guided excursion or day trip, the Riviera Maya has so many tour options for you. Every hotel at the Barcelo Maya has a little section of desks where you can book tours for pretty much anything you want. One of the most popular types of tours is a visit to some of the Mayan ruins that they have along the Yucatan Peninsula. My biggest piece of advice is that no matter what type of tour you do, try to leave as early as you can to avoid the crowds, since everything in this part of Mexico gets packed with tourists later in the day. As you can see, we got up when it was still dark out so we'd be on the road as early as possible. I know you're on vacation and want to sleep in, but trust me, the early wake up is worth it. And if you can, try to take a small group or private tour. That way your guide can get you to the sites before the big tour buses show up, and you can get a more personalized experience doing the stuff that you're most interested in. The one I went to was Chichen Itza, one of the new 7 wonders of the world and the most famous Mayan ruins. You've probably seen pictures of it on every Riviera Maya travel website. Because it's such a world-famous place, crowds start to form as soon as they open up in the morning. But this is the time you should come because it gets way more packed as the day goes on. Look, the vendors and salespeople were still bringing in their stuff and setting up when we got there. Everyone wants to see the big Mayan pyramid. It's called the Temple of Kukulkan, and it's the type of place that's even more impressive in person. Standing by the base and looking up the stairs really makes you appreciate its size. It's thousands of years old and in a field in the Mexican jungle, but it's still in great shape. The engineering and effort that the Mayans needed to build this is absolutely incredible to think about. The pyramid is definitely the crown jewel and biggest draw, but there are lots of other ruins here. The tour company I used was called K Tours, and it was a small group tour with 6 of us plus a guide and a driver. Again, this isn't an advertisement for them, we paid full price, it's just the company I decided to go with after doing my research. But I had a great experience with them and was really happy with my decision to go on this tour. We left really early, missed most of the crowds, and the guide never rushed us, so we got to enjoy the things that were most important to us. I'll put a link in the description in case you're interested. Remember that path I showed you on the way in that was nearly empty? This is the same path a few hours later. It's a long drive, nearly 3 hours from the Barcelo Maya to Chichen Itza, so you'll want to make a full day of it. pretty much every tour has a few other stops along the way. Most of them stop for a lunch break in Valladolid, a really nice colonial city with a beautiful central square. If you've been hoping to get out and spend some more time wandering around Mexican cities, this is a great option and so different than Playa del Carmen. The atmosphere is more laid back and relaxed, with completely different architecture. Plus, you're over in the state of Yucatan, which tends to have older and more historic cities than the more modern ones in Quintana Roo where the resort is. You're almost guaranteed to stop at a cenote along the way. We went to one called Oxman, which was such a different experience. The one I showed you near the resort was like a pool in the middle of the jungle, but this one is hidden away deep underground. So just follow the stairs down. It's so cool when you get down there with the rock walls surrounding you, and then you look up to see an opening letting in the light. Remember how clear the water was in the other cenote where you could see the bottom perfectly? This one seemed like a never-ending pool of water that drops down forever, with the bottom nowhere in sight. The other cenote we stopped at was called Suytun. Both of them are really close to Valladolid, so very easy stops on your day trip. Just like the other one, you need to go underground to get there. But the look and atmosphere of this one is so much different. It has brown walls surrounding you with stalactites hanging down like you're in a cave, with a small central platform out in the middle of the water. Even though I had read about cenotes before coming on vacation, I had no idea how different they could be from each other. Some are like you're swimming in a sunny jungle lake, some are like bottomless underground pools, and others are perfectly calm water inside of a massive cave with only a small opening out to the surface. What I've shown you in this video has really only scratched the surface of the day trips you can take from the Barcelo Maya. There are theme parks, hundreds of other cenotes, a bunch of different Mayan ruins, ziplining and adventure parks, boat trips, city tours, trips to local villages, jungle adventures, and even more stuff I can't even remember. Even if you come back a few times a year, it would be hard to do all of the day trips and tours that they offer. And if you can't find a tour that does exactly what you want, you can probably find a tour guide willing to make a perfect custom day trip for you. The Riviera Maya is all about tourism, so there are so many options out there. The biggest advice I can give you is to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed by all of the choices. Figure out what you want to do and how much you want to spend, and then look for guides with great reviews that can take you there. In my experience, going with the cheapest option usually isn't the best, since you end up on a huge tour bus with hundreds of other tourists, and everything ends up just feeling rushed and less fun. I spent a lot of time researching the right tours for me, and I ended up having really great times. I've shown you some of the fun things you can do off-resort, but if you want to learn more about the Barcelo Maya, I have links to my other videos in the description. In part 1, I show you all of the different hotels, walk you through their buildings, and take you on a tour of my room. Part 2 is all about the huge pools they have there and the seemingly endless sandy beach you get to enjoy. In part 3, I show you all of the food options you have, from buffets to beach grills to a la carte restaurants. I show you the bars and live entertainment and nightlife options you'll have in part 4. In part 5, I show you some of the interesting and unique spots they have on the resort, like its own Mexican market to explore. Some of my favorite things about the resort are the beach activities they have, and I talk about those in part 6. But if you've listened to me talk enough already and just want a quick review of my favorite and least favorite things about the resort, check out my next video. If you have any questions about getting off resort or anything else about the Barcelo Maya Grand, ask me in the comments. While you're at it, like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. On Instagram, I'm Firsthand Globetrotting. On Twitter, I'm Firsthand Globe. Follow me on there. And don't forget, it's an incredible world out there, so pick up your passport and do some firsthand globetrotting of your own.